Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad, your best place for weekly content on young American soccer players playing overseas. My name is Austin Van Turen.
And my name's Patrick Ferry.
And always, welcome to our show. Well, guys, it's good to be back, both of us, this week. And Pat, it feels good to be back together.
Yeah, also, I know we've had to film some episodes individually. Obviously, still getting that content out to our fans here, but always good to have the full strength, full squad.
And we actually have some exciting storylines to talk about this week too. I know the last few weeks have been kind of brutal if you've been keeping up with some of our Yas overseas playing at their clubs.
Yeah, that's right, Austin. Especially with the friendlies and obviously going back after the international break. It's been a little slow start to the season for some of our players here.
Yeah, the horrid international break. Not very good.
Not good at all. Not at all.
So today we do have some good things to talk about, and the first would be another Team of the Week performance from one of our Yas.
And the face of U.S. soccer hitting an early roadblock.
And then we also have a decision looming that could trouble a lot of USMNT fans. So I guess I shouldn't have said some good things to talk about. We have some interesting topics to talk about, but all that and more in this week's episode. So the first player we'll start with today is Zack Steffen. And Pat, Zack had another fantastic performance for Dusseldorf this weekend. Unfortunately, they did lose to Gladbach 2-1, but Pat, he made 9 saves again for them and was also named to the Team of the Week for the Bundesliga. So, Zack's really taken well to life over in Germany so far, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I completely agree, Austin. It's unfortunate they weren't able to at least salvage the draw there. Obviously, they're playing a pretty strong Bundesliga team, but nonetheless, it does seem like Steffen's has his work cut out for him, especially with all the shots teams are able to produce on the defense there. So good to see him showcase his abilities.
Yeah, and I mean playing for a team that faces a lot of, or I should say, lets teams shoot the ball a lot is, I think, a good thing if you're trying to grow as a goalkeeper. And Zack's one special ability, and I feel like the minds of all our USMNT fans is his diving ability and his ability to make reaction saves, and he's definitely showcased that to start the Bundesliga season. Wouldn't you say?
That's right, Austin. What do you think? I guess concerning wise, obviously it's a great start for him here, but obviously things that we've touched on before, but to improve, and hopefully we can see this throughout the season. But especially if he wants to continue to excel.
Yeah, I mean, he started off well at Dusseldorf, has made, a lot of saves to start the season. I think he's actually leading in the top 5 leagues or something with the amount of saves he's had. I saw a stat last weekend. I'm just not sure if it's current after this past week. But, the one thing that he still has to work on, and I know we saw it during our international break against Mexico especially, was playing with the ball out of the back. And it just seems that he's not super comfortable with the ball at his feet yet. I don't think it's a lack of technique or I guess technique. I just don't think he feels comfortable with the ball at his feet. I don't think he feels comfortable making those mental decisions of who to pass the ball to. I don't think he judges how fast players close down some of the center backs and outside backs he's looking to pass to. I don't think he's really done a good job in calculating those distances yet. I know maybe you can speak more to that, Pat, but I think that's the biggest thing he's got to work on is just being more comfortable with playing with the ball at his feet. And I think it comes down to more just repetition and ultimately confidence. He's gotten burned in the past few USMNT camps and games where he's got caught out for taking too long to make passes, and I think that's got him a little gun shy. So hopefully he can work on that here at Dusseldorf this season. In addition to all the saves he's made.
Completely agree. All good points. And I guess just to, piggyback off what you were saying, don't want to mention too much of the horrid friendlies,
Yeah.
but especially what we saw for Mexico. Yeah, because confidence is key, and you could see. I think Greg was trying to, tell the team and tell Steffen to play out of the back. Get the outside backs and center backs involved and play that way. And he was definitely trying and going through the motions, but the execution wasn't there, and that horrible mistake definitely can put damage to you, especially going back to your club, which obviously he's performed very well, but like you've alluded to and mentioned, Dusseldorf doesn't ask him to play in that manner, that way. And also, just I guess want to mention too, Man City's parent club, Pep seems pretty big playing out of the back there. But
Ederson's probably the best keeper in the world at doing that. So
right, but I guess just the main point, like you said, is trying that, but also kind of just having a rough time during the friendlies. That definitely isn't a good look in terms of confidence. That I'm sure when he gets the ball to the back there, he's maybe overthinking or hesitating a little bit too much. So it'd be kind of great. Obviously, you got to keep trying and trying. If you don't try, or fail, you won't succeed, I guess the saying is. But hopefully he can get back on track here in terms of that part of his game.
Yeah, and I mean it's only one aspect of being a goalkeeper. He's doing really well at the primary task of being a goalkeeper, and that's making all those key saves for Dusseldorf. So at least he's really excelling in that part of his game. And Dusseldorf hasn't asked him to play with the ball at his feet too much. They're not a team that likes to start play out of the back. They kind of like to lob the ball forward and kind of play through their midfield a little bit more than most teams. They're not, obviously not a top tier team in the Bundesliga. So I don't think they have the players to really play that possession style. So, Zach hasn't really gotten too many opportunities to hone his game there with Dusseldorf. Maybe they'll come, but I think we kind of need to, I don't know. I don't want to get too off track here, but, I'm not sure we should be asking Zach to play, these passes out of the back for the USMNT. That's maybe all I'm going to say to that point. But that's not to say that he can't do it. I just think it's going to take a little bit of time. So, good to see Zach excelling, like I said, at that primary aspect of his game, all the saves he's been making. And he's really started to make a name for himself in the Bundesliga. I know, Pat, he's gotten a lot of people over in Germany talking. And right now, I would say on paper, he's probably the front runner to win goalkeeper of the season in the Bundesliga. Obviously, we're only, I think, 4 or 5 games in, so I don't want to put too much stock in that. But it's definitely cool to see him. He's already made Team of the Week 2 times this year, so that's a lot of a start than I could have envisioned for him.
Completely agree, and just want to mention quick too, Austin. It just seems like his second go, and he's back in Germany for vengeance. So it's also awesome to see his great start.
Yeah, and it's looked like he's really settled in at Dusseldorf, which was one of the things I was a little concerned with, because it seemed like the reason why he moved back from Germany was that he didn't really take to the culture. I know there were some quotes about playing away from home was hard and tough. He didn't get to see his family. So definitely good to see him excelling right from the start, as that could have been something that could have potentially derailed his career or, at least made it more difficult for him to succeed. So, now, Pat, let's move over to a player that's experiencing some hardship at the moment. And we have some opinions on it. So do you care to elaborate?
Gladly, Austin. And that is obviously the face of U.S. soccer, you could say right now, and that's Christian Pulisic over at Chelsea. So not the ideal or perfect start, here in Chelsea, but want to mention most recently their game against Liverpool over the weekend. He did not feature, and that was the 3rd straight game where he did not see the field, including that Champions League game midweek, a kind of disappointing loss to Valencia there. So again, just a really tough situation, Austin, because Lampard, after all the interviews and speculation with an American player, there's a lot of publicity around him and pressure to succeed. And he's been asked a few times in interviews about questions concerning Pulisic and playing time. And I guess people are alluding to or summarizing that maybe he doesn't think he's quite ready yet, and has mentioned his youthful age and just being 21 still, and with a lot of veterans and players like Willian, Pedro, and even injured still, and to return young, I think he's 18 years old, Hudson Odoi. So there's a lot of options, Austin. So I want to get your opinion on this too.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Obviously, going into Chelsea, we knew it was going to be a tough battle to get playing time right from the start, even with the kind of the youthful side they have this year, and the coach in Frank Lampard, who's kind of still figuring things out. But I think at the moment, Mason Mount started the season off pretty strong, in my opinion. When he was on the field with Pulisic, I did think he looked like the better player, or had the better games. Maybe not long-term better player, but just had some better games than Christian. And then with Willian coming back from injury, I think it's safe to say right now Willian's a far more complete player than Christian Pulisic. I think he's a player that needs to be in the starting 11 if he's healthy, and I think it's fair to start him over Christian. Mason started to fall off a little bit, so I think it's more fair to criticize Frank Lampard playing him this week. This past weekend, I should say. But with that being said, Chelsea still have a lot of other players that could get minutes, like you said, Pat. Callum Hudson-Odoi, Pedro, Ross Barkley, even in there, could play the same position as Pulisic. So while I think it might have been justified to not have Christian Pulisic in the game last weekend, and then even in their Champions League game, I did think he was deserving of a look this weekend, especially as a substitute. Chelsea, and we can talk about it a little bit, Pat, here, they didn't look great against Liverpool. It always seemed like Liverpool was in control of that game. I know Chelsea pulled a goal back and also had one disallowed, but it just seemed like Chelsea were missing a spark on the day. And I think, even as a sub, Christian Pulisic could have provided something different than what they had on the field. And for that, I'm a little concerned because, it seems like Frank Lampard kind of has the players he wants to play. I don't want to read into that too much or make too much out of it than it is. But, I don't know, Pat. Do you want to build off of that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, completely. Just because, and you brought up a good point, just, not having the best start. They're in 11th place. I think the record's 2-2-2 in the Prem. Yeah. Obviously, with the transfer ban that hit, and Hazard leaving, and just some turmoil at Courtois a little while back. There's been some turnover at Chelsea, and they're definitely not up to their usual standards of success. And we've seen moments with the club where the patience is short, and especially as the Prem, these top 4 or 6 clubs, you could say, are getting a lot of attention that you need to be on your top game, and they can move on from you. We've seen a lot of players like De Bruyne and Salah and other players leave and really thrive. But again, don't want to push that I guess theory on, or it's too early to say with Pulisic. I think he really still needs to bide his time, adjust to a really big club in the best league in the world. It's very physical, and I know we were talking a little bit off camera, but want to mention maybe the style of play and the physicality. Maybe he just needs to adjust to that, and maybe again he'll never be that Shaqiri-esque stock or that physical player like you've mentioned, but to use his strengths and to go at players one-on-one and create those attacking situations. We've seen, I think, 2 assists so far for Christian here at Chelsea. But I think, again, I don't want to say I'm rooting for Chelsea to, obviously a Liverpool fan, I'm rooting for Chelsea to not succeed. But if they still have a tough go with this lineup, I think Lampard, especially as an inexperienced coach, will have to tinker more, and maybe Pulisic will, keep buying his times and seize another opportunity when he gets it, which I think will be really short in a short time here.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point there about physicality, and I think that's one of the things that Mason Mount adds over Christian. Mason Mount's a young player, just like Christian is as well, but he spent last year playing a full season in the Championship, and obviously Christian played in the Bundesliga, but to start the season, it just looks like he's a player that goes at players a little bit more aggressively when defending and trying to win the ball back. And I think that's the type of style Frank Lampard is trying to find, or that's the style he wants to play, or that's the type of player he's trying to play on the field. I think he wants players that are really going to go at other players when they have the ball, be really solid and kind of take the game at the scruff of its neck a little bit, if that's a good analogy. And at times we've seen Christian Pulisic not be that type of player. I felt like when he was breaking in at Dortmund, he had that kind of bite to him that you need. But it seems like ever since he's kind of established himself at the first team level, he's kind of become more of a passive player. Obviously a player who likes to dribble and take players on. But when it comes to defending, he's not a player that's really going to try and run at players and put a foot in and challenge real aggressively. So I think that also kind of hurts Christian in Frank's eyes, because I think Frank's looking for those players that are going to, really attack when they don't have the ball. And Christian seems to just sit back a little too much, probably for Frank's liking.
Right. And yeah, that's a good point. I know Lampard as a player is very, very tough too, Austin. And it just seems like the physicality is such a big piece, which we've talked about again and again here. But it's tough. I think we just have to bide our time here and not overreact here.
Yeah.
And just kind of see how he does. There's a lot of games and competitions coming up. Because like you said, maybe he's not going to be the perfect Lionel Messi or Ronaldo and have a 95 strength in FIFA, but if he can kind of adapt and play to his strengths here, and we've seen him some good moments, Dortmund and Chelsea, with his dribbling abilities and vision and passing and things like that. Like you said, maybe he won't ever be that kind of perfect, I guess, physical mold Lampard is looking for, but I still think he has the quality to make an impact here.
I completely agree. And I think, I think Lampard's got to play him. The squad is too small. They are getting some players back from injury, but I just think as a whole, the squad is too small to leave players on the bench for long periods. And like you said, Pat, Chelsea are not doing well at the moment. They're in 11th, so he's going to have to turn to someone at some point in time to kind of give them a different look. And I think Christian will get that, game time again soon. So I think now let's move over to a player in Germany who plays with that physical style and physicality, and that would be Weston McKennie. So Weston, again, started for Schalke this week, played 76 minutes in their 2-1 win over Mainz, and this happened on Friday. And I think the biggest takeaway from this game for me is just you can really start to see what the effect David Wagner has had on Schalke. And, Schalke last year were a team that did not look cohesive, looked very passive at times, very porous in defense. But in this game especially, they looked very good. They were a team that was pressing really well and, aggressively going into each challenge and cutting down passing lanes, trying to win the ball back every time they lost possession. And it was really a complete 180 from what I saw last year, Pat. And, Weston McKennie was kind of right in the middle of the action. So, in this game, he was all over the field, and that's something that also the commentators made note of as well. But there was times where you'd see him, win a ball back in like the left back position, and then several seconds later, he'd be up the field, winning a header and trying to play a 1-2 with a striker. It was that kind of game for him. He did pick up a yellow card later in this game and was subbed out, like I said, in the 76th minute. So, I think this was a good game for Weston, and he's really, I think, starting to fit right into David Wagner's system and is doing the things he needs to do this year to cement himself as a good up-and-coming player who's taking the next step.
Right, and I think, like you said, David Wagner is such a key component to this, helping turning Schalke around and helping out with the formations and tactics. And I think that's just such a great manager for McKennie to be under, to really establish, that role that we all wanted to see him in, and not just play left back, right back, wherever. I think this is just such a crucial season for him, developing wise, excuse me. But with David there at the helm, I think we're going to see great things and more results and performances. And I wouldn't be surprised now. Maybe it's too early, but Schalke have a strong finish to the season here.
Yeah, and I like two things that you mentioned there. The first being seeing him in a consistent position or a consistent formation this year, and I love the formation that David Wagner's playing. He's basically playing like I would say, I almost want to say like a 4-3-3, but it's not so much. It's kind of like a 4-5-1, where basically you have three midfielders kind of rotating in the middle, can all defend, can all get forward and attack. And then you have two wide players who sit back a little bit deeper, and then you have one striker isolated up top. And I really think this type of formation suits Weston McKennie because he can really combine on both sides of the ball. I think he can really do good things defensively. At times he switches off, and we've seen that in the past, but his main strengths lend him to be a more defensive player, but he also has that passing ability and touch on the ball to get forward at times. So like I said, Schalke's three midfielders kind of rotate throughout the game, and this gives Weston a lot of opportunities to showcase, both of his skills on both sides of the ball. So I really like it. I think this formation is something that I'd love to see the USMNT play. I'd also love to see David Wagner be the coach of the USMNT, Pat.
Agree.
Maybe in the future, we do have that connection with him playing for us in the past. But I think this is the perfect formation for him to showcase all of his strengths. And there was something else you mentioned at the end of what you're talking about, Pat. Do you remember what you brought up? I had another good point I wanted to make too.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that point.
A little bit.
It was right on the tip of my tongue, and I think it was it was just losing my train of thought here, Austin. I'm losing my train of thought.
No matter what, I think like we said, this was a good game for Weston. He did struggle at times losing the ball in possession, but it was all situations where he was trying to play like a first-time pass, and it was just, a player stepped into the passing lane. They weren't like simple bad passes to giveaways. It was more just like good ideas that didn't work out. So,
right, and I think I kind of remembered actually as you're bringing that up. It's just like the vision is there, and once he kind of delivers and has that execution piece, because like you said, he's trying these balls, he's not afraid, he has the confidence, and once he can kind of put those the final product together, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, and I think what's most exciting about him is that he has that vision that you're talking about. He tries a lot of flicks, 1-2s with players. He's an ambitious passer, I guess is a good way to put it. He's not someone that's just going to sit there and play within himself. He's always trying to look to play that, that killer ball or that killer pass that's going to unlock a defense. And right now, sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't, but he's still 21. He's still learning, still growing as a player. So I like seeing a player that, that's trying that type of stuff right now when, you could have a player who just, like I said, plays within himself, doesn't challenge himself too much, and is content with being just like a possession keeper, a placeholder in the team. I like where Weston's at right now. I like how David Wagner has Schalke playing, and let's hope good things continue to come to Weston this year. I don't know. I think I'm going to move on now, Pat. I'm going to throw it back to you for a player who's going to have a vision here real soon. So who would that be? And this is Sergino Dest here with Ajax. Obviously a great start and a rapid rise for the club here. He's been just getting, great compliments, obviously featuring for the U.S. in that unfortunate time. Not the best, almost showcase, you could say, from our national team. But again, the 18-year-old right back, left back, wherever he wants to play, honestly, has been featuring really well. And just want to mention recently against a crucial game against PSV, he played the full 90, started in a 1-1 draw. So received some praise there. And in the stands were obviously the Netherlands, the scouts, and Kelman, their manager. So
no, get him out of there.
Yeah, right. Tell him to leave. Tell him to leave the stadium. But yeah, that's a little concerning, Austin, just because he is getting that recognition and a really great club in the Netherlands. Ajax has been known to kind of obviously produce some great players for the country, and with Kelman kind of giving those opportunities to some of the younger players and just getting a look here, you never know what could happen. And Dest has said he could be, open to both just because of, who they are as a program. But yeah, just want to mention, I guess, another interesting point is I think CBS said a source reached out and have potentially Dest and the Netherlands have been in contact. Obviously don't know the specific extent to that and don't want to relay any, false news or anything like that. But just to know that there are, some knocks at the door and some opportunities for Dest, excuse me. And yeah, again, I think Austin, an interesting point, and we can, elaborate on further, is just with his time with the U.S. and the program from I think it was the U17s in 2016 all the way up until now. He has been playing for us and featuring for the youth team. So it'll be kind of interesting to see, when that decision is made by Sergino.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure it's going to be made in October, Pat. I think the realistic timeline would be him declining a call-up in October, if we do call him up, which I think we will, just to give some more time to make that decision. And I think that's fair. Obviously we want to see him play for us. We want to see that as fast as it possibly can happen. But the best situation for him, I think, right now is just for him to kind of take some time, figure out, what each, I guess, pathway could lead to, what, I guess, the worst case scenarios that happen, what he's most comfortable with. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know. I feel like people are kind of hyping him up to be this, world-class caliber right back or left back. And I think people just need to kind of take a little backseat for a second and, realize that he's a good player. He's got a lot of good offensive capabilities going forward. I do think he needs to still work defensively on his game. I don't think that's, I don't know. I think that's for a right back or an outside back, I should say. Unfortunately, his defensive prowess is not as good as his offensive prowess. So, with that being said, Pat, what do you think? Do you think he will accept the call up in October, or do you think he's going to wait a little bit? Do you think he'll not accept it at all and choose the Netherlands? What's your opinion?
I have to agree with you, Austin. I think he's going to take some time because the Nations League said the qualifiers are next month, and that's coming up. And I don't think you can make such a huge decision, especially as a obviously speaking from Sergino's perspective of your career for your country. Obviously, he has ties to both, and there are certain factors he has to weigh, personally, and then maybe some of the relationships he's made, or he can see, like you said, down the road or the right path. But I think, like you said, I think people just need to, again, not overhype someone just because we've been known, especially as in American sports, to do that. But also have to recognize he is a talent and would definitely, this is a great time to just go full out and recruit someone that could, has a really, I think, a pretty high ceiling. Obviously, if you can work on his defensive abilities and improve that way, but someone that can add such an interesting dimension and into Berhalter and just the U.S. system in general, because you can play him in so many different areas, and he kind of really meshes in with different formations and can adapt. So I think, again, just back to your question, he's going to take some time, and fingers crossed, Austin, he stays with the red, white, and blue.
Yeah, I think yeah. Since we're both in agreement, I think that is the most realistic outcome of this situation, at least for the time being. And I think, just to elaborate on what I was trying to say earlier, I'm trying to compose my thoughts a little bit. But what I meant by evaluating, I guess, the worst case scenarios for each decision, I guess you really have to weigh the highs and the lows of each decision. So obviously, if he chooses to play for the Netherlands, it could be that, he becomes a really good outside back and starts for a team that, at the moment, Pat, is one of the best national teams in the world. They just made the the UEFA Nations League final last year, and lost to Portugal. They've got some great young players coming up, and he could be a part of that. But also with the Netherlands, it could be he switches and never sees the field for him once. So, you can look at that from the USMNT perspective. He's already made his debut for the USMNT, so I'm not sure if he would be a player that would never again feature for us, but it could go sour for him and he'd be kind of a fringe player, or he could be one of our regulars and, be a player that plays for us for the next, 10 to 15 years. So definitely something that he's got to consider. Obviously when you look at the highs for playing for Netherlands, you could be playing in a team that has a chance to win the World Cup more realistically than
right.
the USMNT. So
Van Dijk backline.
Yeah, be a part of, or be playing next to players like Virgil van Dijk and Matthias de Ligt. That it doesn't get much better than that. So obviously that looks great on paper, but how realistic is that? I mean, it's up to discussion, and it's up to whatever Sergino Dest's ceiling is. So I think that's one part of it. And what I was trying to say too, and I think Pat, you alluded to it well, was he's still a very raw player. He's got a lot of work to do to get to the point of, I think being a full regular for the Netherlands national team. He plays very well in a possession-based style of playing style. He's really good with the ball at his feet. He's really good in possession, creating or linking up with players down the wing. Defending, I think he's got a lot of work to do. I don't want to be too harsh on him, but I think if he played in a style that's, more counterattacking, more less playing with the ball at your feet and less playing in possession, I think he'd be a player that doesn't really stand out as much. And, it kind of just is what it is. And at Ajax right now, he's in that possession style system that really suits his game. And I think he's, looking like a standout because he's in the right system. And, will the USMNT ever play that style and be able to have the players to play that type of quality of soccer? I don't know. So that's just something to consider. Like we both said, Pat, that his decision I don't think it'll be made in October. I think we'll wait a little bit. And, I think we've done all we can really do. I don't think we've screwed up his decision like we did Jonathan Gonzalez, where we didn't really reach out to him or anything like that. I think we've done, a pretty good job of including him into our setup and showing him that he has a future at the full national team level. So, we'll have to see, I guess, what happens.
Yeah, I mean, all good points. Completely agree with you on everything. So we just gotta, again, keep our fingers crossed because, again, like we've all kind of mentioned here, Sergino could be a very good asset, to this program going forward. But I guess we want to just shift gears here, Austin, and head back to Germany, to a striker that got another start here.
One final time for the episode, and that would be Josh Sargent. So Josh got another start. I believe it was his second of the season, and played 81 minutes, but Bremen lost the game 3-0 to RB Leipzig. So, this game, I thought he started out really strong. He had like a opportunity in the box where it was kind of like a 50-50 call where he kind of tripped over his feet, but he was also pushed a little bit to the ground. So, it is what it is. He didn't get the penalty. I thought he did well combining with players, getting forward on counters. He had a lot of opportunities where the ball came to him, and then he kind of passed the ball and made a quick run up the field, and he looked good in those situations. In that counter situation. So he didn't really have many opportunities to score in this game, though. So he did some things well, like I just talked about. His hold-up play was good as well, but at the end of the day, a striker's job is to score, and in this game he didn't score. So, that's something to be said. But
right. And
Bremen didn't look particularly stellar on the game, but they did have some opportunities, and Leipzig got a red card early on in the second half when they were up 2-0. So, there's definitely opportunities to be had. So I don't know. I don't think it was a bad game from Josh, but I don't think it was necessarily the type of game that he would have been happy to have had.
Absolutely. And like you said, obviously it's a striker's job to score. Again, playing a team like RB Leipzig, the chances are a little few and far between. Obviously, good to see kind of Sargent play more in that natural striker position, but also kind of drop back and get involved a little bit. Maybe not in terms of the shots or shots on goal and that piece, but also I guess I wanted to address, and I were talking a little bit off camera, but I think another U23 attacker came in, right, for Bremen.
Yeah, at the end of the game. And I think he was an attacker. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't have the time to really look it up. But right now, Bremen are kind of struggling with some injuries up top at striker. And, that's good for Josh. That gives him less competition and, gives him more opportunity to get on the field for Bremen. But they did what looked like brought on a youth team striker, a U23 player. Didn't really do anything in the final 10 minutes. So, I don't think that dude really made the most of his opportunity, but it is kind of interesting to see that, there's some different type of competition for Josh now. And hopefully we don't see something where at Schalke last year when Haji Wright was called up, some other strikers were called up, and Ahmed Katuchu, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, was kind of the striker that took his opportunity when Haji was called up instead of Haji Wright. So hopefully we don't see a situation like that now at Bremen.
Yeah, that's what Sargent needs to do, Austin. Take that chance and step up just in terms of with the injuries and, proving himself, because I think this is, like we've mentioned, this is a very crucial, vital year for him.
Yeah, and I will say he looked comfortable in this game. That's the thing I've been looking for from Josh in all the game time he's gotten this year, because at the end of last year and the few appearances he had, he really just didn't look comfortable on the pitch. And I think that was due to a lot of the times the position he was asked to play. But in this game, he was asked to play the number 9, the main striker position for Bremen. So, I think that helped things out. And overall, not a bad performance. I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10, maybe a little less than that because Bremen lost 3-0. But, I think Josh did an okay job here. Just needs to get on the score sheet. But
he'll get there, Austin. One day, because he's right now with our striker pool here, we need Josh to step up for club and country here.
Yeah, I think we're just getting a little too impatient with him. We got to both kind of temper our expectations. So,
his friendlies didn't help, but yes, we will temper our expectations here.
Yeah, very true. So, that's all for this part of our episode today. Now let's head over to Quick Kicks.
All right, guys. So I appreciate Austin doing this part for us here. And I know it's yours and both of ours favorite times, but it is none other than Quick Kicks.
So you could test Duane Miller. It's Altidore over the wall. And that one is in! Josie Altidore from a long way out. The opening goal for the United States.
All right, all you viewers, we're going to start off in the English Championship here with Duane Holmes. Great to see him back from injury, and he got his first full 90 since that time out, and a 1-1 draw against Leeds United for Derby County.
And moving over to Germany, Gio Reyna scored a goal in BVB U19's 6-1 win over Bayer Leverkusen's U19s this past weekend. So good to see Gio back on the score sheet, who was also on the score sheet midweek too. So congrats to him.
Yeah, keep it up, Gio. And heading over to the Netherlands, where we got some exciting prospects here. Richy Ledezma, got the full 90 and started today in a 1-0 loss against Cambuur. But great to see Ledezma getting those minutes here.
And moving over to England, Charlie Kelman scored the game-winning goal for Southend United as they beat MK Dons in League One 1-0. So congrats to Charlie, and we're rooting for you. One of our fan favorites here.
That's right, Austin. That's right. And heading back to the Netherlands, we have Alex Mendez for a young Ajax. Actually started and played the first half in a 1-1 draw against Go Ahead Eagles.
And moving over to the Hobros, we got Christian Cappis playing 90 minutes and was man of the match for Hobro in their 1-1 draw. And also in that game, Emmanuel Sabbi played 73 minutes. So go on, Hobros.
Gotta love it, Austin. Gotta love it. And heading over to Austria, we have Erik Palmer-Brown made the full start and played 90 in a 2-0 win against Altach. So great to see Erik Palmer-Brown off to a great start in Austria.
And speaking of center backs, Chris Richards played 90 minutes in Bayern 2's 2-1 win over the weekend. But a plot twist, he actually played right back in this game. So good to see Chris on the field.
Very interesting, Austin. And heading over to Spain here, we have Shaq Moore finally made that long-awaited start for Tenerife in the second division over in Spain and played 60 minutes in a 1-0 loss against Fuenlabrada.
Okay. And Matthew Hoppe started and played 90 minutes in Schalke's 1-0 win, or Schalke U19's 1-0 win. So unfortunately, no goal on the weekend, but good to see Matthew on the field.
Always a good thing, Austin. And last but not least here, we have Chris Gloster, again, for a player, young PSV, started and played the full 90. And again, like I mentioned earlier, in that unfortunate loss against Cambuur.
And as always, guys, thank you for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel down below.
And as always, make sure to also check out our Instagram and Twitter pages. Social media, we're always keeping you up to date and making those great graphics and content to keep out for all the young Yas there.
That's right. And we're gonna say we got some Nations League qualifiers to look forward to in October, but I think right now, Pat, we're more excited about the club level.
That's right, Austin. We got to build some momentum here and enjoy this small success while we can before next month.
Yeah, and to be fair, not all the players playing at the club level right now are doing well either. So great time to be a USMNT fan. Hey,
but you never know, Austin, because this is just the bottom here. But we're gonna soon get to the top, and one day things will all change. We'll look back at this episode and just kind of laugh about it.
Right, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. One day we will win the World Cup. Book it.